This training for EMAT users provides basic information about accessible instructional materials, and we use the acronym AIM, A-I-M. My name is Lee Ann Lee, and I work in the Instructional Materials and Implementation Division at TEA. In terms of instructional materials, accessibility is the practice of making them usable by as many people as possible. And this is including students with disabilities or barriers to using the traditional print formats. Some examples of barriers are visual impairment or cognitive or physical disabilities. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, requires that school districts provide accessible formats of instructional materials to students who are blind or otherwise unable to use the traditional format print materials. Section 31.028 of Texas Education Code is the statute that authorizes the commissioner to purchase specialized formats for the students who require them. So the good news for districts is that AIM formats of state-adopted materials are provided at no cost to your district. These materials do remain property of the state, so we ask that you return them when the student is done using them. An exception to that would be consumable volumes of large print material. Typically, if the non-specialized version is consumable, then the specialized AIM version will be too, and the student can use it in a consumable fashion. If you're purchasing non-state adopted AIM, districts are responsible for the full cost, and they may use allotment funds or IDEA Part B funds to pay for it. Braille, large print, audio, and digital formats are available to order by requisition in EMAT. I do want to note that the digital version you would receive from placing an AIM requisition is the same digital material the rest of the class would have. It's not any different. So if you already have the digital version that you purchased from the publisher, it is accessible. I do want to talk a little bit more about digital accessibility. In order to be state adopted and be available in EMAT, electronic materials must comply with both Section 508 standards and Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG standards. And beginning with Proclamation 2017, publishers have also been required to provide a third-party report certifying that compliance. And this is for all electronic components, both teacher and student. So anyone using assistive technology will be able to use it. And examples of assistive technology might be screen readers or screen magnification or Braille keypads. An admission, review, and dismissal or ARD committee or 504 committee determines if a student requires AIM, and that student's specific need for AIM is included in their IEP or their 504 plan. The Marrakesh Treaty Implementation Act of 2018 slightly changed the definition of an eligible person to someone who has a visual impairment or a perceptual or reading disability. This does have some implications for students diagnosed with a reading deficit other than dyslexia, and they may be eligible for receiving the content in an accessible format, such as an audiobook. Each year, districts report students eligible for AIM to the Texas School for the Blind and Visually Impaired. And districts should maintain accurate records pertaining to AIM at the local level. Please do not submit any confidential student information when contacting TEA. Keep the documentation at the local level. Before submitting an AIM requisition in EMAT, districts are required to certify that that material is being ordered for an eligible student. The Instructional Materials Coordinator entering the AIM requisition will certify eligibility just before submitting that requisition to TEA. This is important to note because we used to have enrollment loaded into EMAT, and districts could only order if they had AIM population for that subject or course. It's much easier now. To certify eligibility, you'll simply enter the phone number of the staff member who is certifying that AIM requisition and click OK. Districts may request a second set of AIM to allow a student to keep one set at home and one set at school. The second set of AIM is also provided at no cost to the district. It is a good idea to have a system in place to document your receipt of AIM shipments and also to document when you check those out to teachers or to parents if they're going home, so that you know who is responsible for getting them back to you if they need to be returned. Teachers with visual impairments can also order accessible formats of state-adopted teacher editions at no cost to the district. Visit the TEA Accessible Instructional Materials website to obtain the form to order those teacher editions in Braille or large print if needed. And please keep in mind that those can take a while to produce, so you'll want to order them as soon as you know you'll be needing them. Here are a few resources for non-state adopted accessible instructional materials. As a reminder, districts are responsible for the cost of non-state adopted AIM titles. Allotment funds or IDEA Part B funding can be used to pay for it. And you can visit the American Printing House for the Blind's Lewis database to search for non-state adopted titles in all AIM formats. You can search by ISBN or title, and you can pull up all of the vendors and all of the formats available for purchase. Learning Ally is another resource of human-read audiobooks. Their library contains over 80,000 titles that students can access. They're also the audio vendor for our state-adopted titles. Through a U.S. Department of Education grant, districts may also access Bookshare's library. And their library contains over 900,000 titles, including computer-generated audio. They can also sometimes provide digital files and Braille-ready format files to be used with a refreshable Braille reader. If you still have questions or need assistance, please reach out to us through the Instructional Materials Help Desk.